Wes Streeting's resignation could be the moment. Keir Starmer's government starts to collapse. The letter that just put Keir Starmer in serious political danger. Something inside Labour has clearly broken. Wes Streeting's resignation as Health Secretary is not being treated inside Westminster as a routine cabinet departure, a policy disagreement, or a temporary moment of frustration. It is being interpreted as something far more dangerous for Keir Starmer. A public declaration that senior figures inside his government no longer believe he can survive politically. That changes everything. Streeting's resignation letter did not merely announce an exit. It openly questioned Starmer's future, criticized the direction of the government, and intensified the sense that Labour's leadership crisis is now happening in public, rather than behind closed doors. The timing matters. The language matters. The symbolism matters even more. This is the Health Secretary. He is one of the most recognizable faces in Labour, one of the figures long viewed as part of the party's future generation. And now he has walked away, while openly signaling that Starmer may not lead Labour into the next election. That is not normal cabinet turbulence. That is a warning. The part of the letter that changes the entire story. Streeting's resignation letter appears carefully designed to do two things simultaneously: damage Starmer politically while avoiding looking reckless. The central line now dominating the Westminster discussion is his statement that it has become clear Starmer will not lead Labour into the next general election. That sentence matters because it transforms private dissatisfaction into a public legitimacy crisis. If senior ministers genuinely believe Starmer cannot survive politically, then every speech, policy announcement, reshuffle, and parliamentary appearance suddenly starts looking temporary. Governments become unstable long before they officially fall. The real danger is when authority quietly evaporates underneath them. Streeting's broader criticism was even more damaging. Reports surrounding the resignation describe him attacking a vacuum instead of vision, and drift instead of direction. Those are not policy criticisms. Those are leadership criticisms. And leadership crises are much harder to contain because they infect everything else: party discipline, voter confidence, media narratives, donor confidence, and cabinet loyalty. Why this suddenly feels bigger than one resignation. One resignation can be survived. A coordinated loss of confidence is something else entirely. The wider context surrounding Streeting's exit is what makes the situation politically explosive. Multiple ministers have reportedly resigned recently, while dozens of Labour MPs are now publicly questioning Starmer's leadership. That creates a dangerous atmosphere inside any governing party. Once MPs begin calculating for a post-Starmer future, behavior changes quickly. Loyalty weakens. Cabinet unity disappears. Potential successors begin to quietly organize. Political allies suddenly reposition themselves. Every media appearance becomes leadership speculation, and voters can sense instability rapidly. That is the hidden danger here. The public often does not follow Westminster procedure closely, but they immediately detect weakness, panic, division, and loss of control. Once a prime minister starts looking politically wounded, every mistake suddenly feels bigger, and every resignation starts looking fatal. The local election disaster sitting behind the revolt. This crisis had causes. Labour's poor local election performance appears to have accelerated panic inside the party. Reports suggest the party suffered major council losses while pressure from Reform UK continued growing in several areas. That matters because governing parties can survive damaging headlines. What they struggle to survive is the belief that voters are abandoning them more quickly than expected. Streeting's resignation appears tied directly to fears about Labour's future electoral viability under Starmer. And once senior politicians start fearing electoral collapse, leadership coups become dramatically more likely. Politicians ultimately follow survival instincts. The question everyone inside Labour is now asking: who comes next? That question is already looming over Westminster. Several names are already circulating around potential leadership scenarios, including figures such as Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham. Streeting himself is also now being discussed as a possible contender. That creates another problem for Starmer. Once viable alternatives emerge, internal rebellions become easier because MPs stop fearing the unknown. Leadership challenges often become psychologically possible before they are formally organized. That threshold now appears to have been crossed. Could other MPs follow? Possibly. And that is where the real danger begins. Political resignations can create momentum effects. If MPs believe Streeting has legitimized rebellion, others may now feel safer in criticizing Starmer openly. Some may resign. Others may push privately for a timetable for departure. Others may simply stop defending the leadership publicly. The critical issue is whether this becomes isolated dissent or cascading dissent. The reports already suggest the pressure is spreading across different factions inside Labour, rather than staying confined to one ideological wing. That is politically serious. Prime ministers can survive factional rebellions. Broad-spectrum collapse in confidence is much harder to survive. Is this game over for Keir Starmer? Not necessarily. But this is clearly the most dangerous political moment of his leadership so far. Prime ministers have survived cabinet revolts before. Leadership challenges can fail. Public sympathy can sometimes swing back toward embattled leaders. If challengers appear opportunistic or chaotic, there are still MPs publicly backing Starmer. Government machinery is still functioning. No formal leadership contest has yet begun, but something politically important has changed. The illusion of internal stability appears gone, and politics becomes extremely dangerous once governments start looking temporary. The deeper risk for Starmer is not merely losing one cabinet minister. It is the possibility that Labour now enters a prolonged internal civil war while facing mounting electoral pressure from multiple directions at once. That combination destroys governments, not instantly, but gradually, publicly, and often irreversibly. The dangerous optics Labour cannot escape. This story also damages Labour's central promise of competence. Starmer spent years presenting Labour as disciplined, professional, stable, and managerial after the chaos of previous Conservative governments. That image was politically valuable, because many voters wanted calm rather than drama. But leadership turmoil destroys that image fast. Once cabinet resignations, leadership plots, and public internal warfare dominate the headlines, the party begins to look unstable itself. That is why Streeting's resignation matters beyond Westminster personalities. It threatens Labour's entire political brand. The bigger problem underneath the surface, the most dangerous part of this crisis, may not even be Streeting himself. It is the possibility that Labour never fully resolved what it actually stands for once it reached power. Governments built primarily around opposition eventually reach a difficult moment where voters start demanding clarity, identity, conviction, and direction, rather than managerial competence alone. Streeting's criticisms appear to touch exactly that pressure point. If enough MPs now believe the government lacks vision, authority, or political energy, then this crisis may continue expanding regardless of whether Starmer survives the immediate pressure. That is why the situation suddenly feels bigger than one resignation letter. It feels like the beginning of a fight over what Labour actually becomes next.